He's also the law. Cases connection. With the 13th beer is free.
News 4's Martha Benavides, only on the Valley's News Leader. This is KGBT-TV, the Valley's News Leader. News 4 at 5 begins now.
It's being called an ambush. An early morning shooting with a military assault rifle leaves 4 people dead.
And 3 people fighting for their lives. Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Martha Benavides.
And I'm Dave Johnson. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Valley's News Leader. It is a story that has shocked the Valley, and it's in media as far away from New York here. Topping our news this afternoon, a story we've been covering all day long. Authorities have in custody the man they believe opened fire with an AK-47 Chinese assault rifle and killed 4 people. The motive, according to Cameron County Sheriff Omar Lucio, is a boyfriend-girlfriend dispute.
Our Jenny Davis has been covering the story since it developed this morning, and she joins us live now from the scene just south of San Benito. Jenny, what can you tell us about this horrible tragedy?
Well, Dave, Martha, right now we're standing right in front of a command post that was set up earlier this morning. Now, state and federal officials are still looking for 2 suspects that may be responsible for the deaths of 4 people earlier this morning. Now, 2 Border Patrol agents were shot in the search. A mother and a daughter who were also killed were found in their Rio Hondo home. 3 others are also shot. They're in the hospital right now. We were told that it's one Cameron County Sheriff's deputy. He is in stable condition. He has just come out of surgery. We've been told that he's doing better. The son of the woman that was killed, he is in critical condition right now. And they do have 1 suspect in custody, but we are told that he is in very critical condition right now. Now, this started out as a domestic dispute, but it obviously ended in 4 deaths. But hours ago, a lot of the emergency law enforcement that's been helping out in this situation, they did go home. They've been here since early this morning, so they are waiting for other officers to come in and take their place. But this is obviously still unfolding, and we're going to keep you updated as we learn more.
Jenny, of course, as in any live breaking story, details can change within the matter of seconds. Are they actively searching now for any more people out there, or do they have the man that they believe actually pulled the trigger in custody?
Dave, that's something we don't know. We do know that there are 3 suspects. As you can see behind me, the activity was a lot heavier this morning. There were canines out here searching the area, combing the area. There were helicopters. About 2 or 3 helicopters could be seen up in the sky looking around this area. But as far as we know, this is what they have. I have not been told if they are actually still searching for the suspects, but there are still a lot of units out here in the area.
Okay, Jenny Davis is live. We'll be checking with you a bit later on, of course, to the newscast. We appreciate your report. Needless to say, San Benito residents were quite surprised, and that is a literal understatement, with the sheer numbers of law enforcement officers in their neighborhood this morning. Officials set up a command post at Hudson and Gamble Streets as they searched for the suspects. Now, many folks traveling through the area were detained, and some of them were even turned away. Others were not allowed to return to their homes. And even though residents were concerned with all the commotion, they were very glad, very, very glad to see that all the state, federal, and local officials were working hard together, we may add, to resolve this situation.
Now, back where the original shooting happened, residents are still trying to understand why 2 innocent women were murdered.
That's right. Our reporter Tom Castaneda has been at the scene. He's now live in our newsroom with the very latest on that. Tom?
The motive behind the early morning shooting that left a grandmother and mother-dad is still unclear tonight. What police do know, the shooting happened at about 5 this morning. Investigators say the suspect knocked on the door at this house and asked to speak to 22-year-old Dan Morin. When his 31-year-old sister Dalia Morin and 53-year-old mother Margarita Flores walked in, the suspect fatally shot them. Morin, who was critically wounded, had apparently been dating the shooting suspect's ex-girlfriend, and police believe jealousy may have played a role in the shooting. Now, the love triangle motive has not been confirmed by police, but they do tell us that the suspect did apparently date Morin's girlfriend. We'll, of course, bring you the latest on this case and reaction from neighbors tonight at 6 o'clock. Dave and Martha?
All right. Tom Castaneda reporting live in our newsroom. Thanks. We'll, of course, keep in touch with Tom as literally details are coming in at the moment. As we said, when breaking news happens, details can change, and things they do. Immigration and Naturalization Service Director Doris Meisner was in the Valley today. She called the shootings an American tragedy, and she vowed to bring the killer or killers to justice.
That's right, Dave. Speaking before a media swarm, the director said President Clinton and Attorney General Janet Reno are saddened by today's events. She said the deaths cannot go unpunished.
Of local, state, and federal officers have been investigating this all day, and these killers will be found. The message should be heard loud and clear.
Now, the agents killed our 28-year-old Susan Rodriguez. She is from Harlingen, and she entered the Border Patrol in September of 1992 and was assigned to the Harlingen sector. Her husband is an immigration officer with the Harlingen INS, and her father is a retired chief deputy patrol agent of the U.S. Border Patrol as well. Now, she's the first female agent, Dave, to die in the line of duty in the history of the Border Patrol.
And certainly the emotion of Doris Marzer when she talked about that, you could tell it really got to her. And as far as Mr. Salinas, now Rick Salinas was a relatively new agent of the Border Patrol. He was only 24 years old. He just graduated from the academy only 5 months ago. He was assigned to the Harlingen sector. He was actually scheduled to end his probationary period. That's, you know, when you're hired somewhere, you're on a probationary period for a little period of time. He was about to get ready to get off of that period in just a couple of weeks and become a full-time officer. He leaves behind a fiance and a father in San Antonio. Now, as far as the suspect goes, Cameron County Sheriff Omar Lucio told us at the news conference today that they are investigating the fact that the suspect may, and we underscore the word may, be the son of a longtime Harlingen police officer. Valley Baptist Medical Center confirms that a man by the name of Ernest Moore was brought into the hospital very early this morning with multiple gunshot wounds, that Mr. Moore is in critical condition. Harlingen Police Chief Jim Shepner says that this man, this Mr. Moore, is the son of Officer Dwayne Moore. And of course, much more on this story later on in the newscast. Now, here's Larry James with our first check of the forecast.
And Dave, as we take a look at our satellite picture, a high pressure ridge.
At 10 o'clock, this old empty cornfield is abuzz with a whir of satellite trucks, beaming the story throughout Texas and across the nation. Not much left in this cornfield now, but earlier today, it served as the backdrop of one of the deadliest and bloodiest days in Valley history. Ernest Moore was a popular young man in the town of San Benito.
2 U.S. Border Patrol agents were killed today in a suburb of Harlingen, Texas.
That was before he niched his place in history,
Killing a woman and her daughter this morning. The alleged gunman was captured after being wounded in the shootout.
accused of killing the first female Border Patrol agent in history.
We will do everything in our power to see that the person or persons responsible for these tragedies are brought to justice swiftly.
That justice will now have to come from a higher source. Ernest Moore died from injuries sustained in a shootout with law enforcement authorities in this cornfield. He was shot 4 times.
He came out of the cornfield and just opened fire on the officers.
Police in Rio Hondo received a 911 call of shots fired at a house at about 5:30 a.m. 53-year-old Margarita Flores and her daughter, 31-year-old Dalia Morin, were shot to death in a hallway inside their home. Ms. Flores' son, 22-year-old Dan Morin, was critically wounded. Police say Moore went to the home seeking a former girlfriend. She was at the home, but she was not injured. After the shootings, Moore fled in a pickup truck, then apparently abandoned it just south of San Benito near his parents' home and began running. Sheriff deputies called for help, and 3 Border Patrol agents spotted him. A gun battle soon broke out with gunfire from a Chinese-made AK-47 assault rifle, killing agents Susan Lynn Rodriguez and Ricardo Guillermo Salinas.
They seem happy together all the time. They were coming in here. But I guess things just all of a sudden happened.
Moore was a regular customer at John Huerta's store. The news came as a shock.
He was a real talkative guy, real honest guy, really. But I guess it just things happen too.
Ironically, law enforcement runs prevalent in the Moore household. His father is a longtime Harlingen policeman, and his brother is an officer in San Benito. Friends say he was a man who enjoyed having a good time in this neighborhood, just blocks away from the crime scene.
They were a part of the INS family. We will remember them for their dedication and their hard work.
The slayings of Agents Rodriguez and Salinas have sent shockwaves through the law enforcement community.
We constantly encounter people who are armed, heavily armed, and this is just another example of how quickly a tragedy like this can occur.
Now, we have heard much about Mr. Moore since his death at around 5 o'clock tonight. Much of it has been unconfirmed. We are sure, though, to find out more about this young man in the days to come. Bottom line, at 10 o'clock, Irma and Carlos, 5 people are dead, including the only man who could really answer why.
Dave, earlier in the day, the search continued for maybe some other suspects. What are authorities doing about that, and is the search completely called off tonight?
Bottom line, Irma, the search has not been completely ruled out, and the search for other suspects has not been ruled out. A second man was stopped and questioned today, but he was released, and there is word that there may be yet a third man. But what we know definitively at 10 o'clock, police believe their man is now deceased. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thanks, Dave, for that live report.
In the 74-year
address announcer here on the stage is pretty much prepping the crowd as to what is going to be happening, the presidential etiquette, if you would, when the chief executive pulls in with his fleet of limousines and Secret Service agents and armed guards. Speaking of that, let me just kind of give you a feel for what is out here. You've got basically every law enforcement person south of Corpus Christi and north of Matamoros is probably in and around this stadium right now. I don't know if you could see it, but there are several sharpshooters on top of the old press box. Well, it's actually not the old press box, on top of the Mission Eagle press box that are aimed out at this crowd. Of course, they don't have their rifles pointed out, but certainly when you have this enormous amount of people, regardless of the fact that every single person did go through a metal detector, you are talking about a presidential visit. This is not a small room. There are more than 10,000 people out here, and of course every precaution needs to be taken for such a visit. Apparently the President of the United States is making his way into Mission Stadium in a scene reminiscent out of some huge Hollywood production. Thousands of these tiny American flags are waving now. They're all waving toward President Clinton as the signs in the background. Mission loves President Clinton. Welcome to the Rio Grande Valley. The presidential motorcade and the entourage making its way, albeit somewhat slowly, into Tom Landry Stadium, or against a backdrop that says President Clinton, college opportunity for everyone. It will be a speech to remember. Certainly the temperatures out here today could not be more beautiful. If this would be June, July in most places in the country. Perhaps the skies are opening up. We're going to be blessed with good weather. We're blessed with an orderly crowd here. Everybody's excited, waiting to see the President of the United States. His limousine has just pulled in just to the back of over there. Obviously, you can tell the other side, the stands are over there are all packed up because obviously nobody could see from the other side. And with this massive humanity that is out here, it may be somewhat difficult for you to see the actual limousine pulling in. Although we have a 3-camera setup, we're trying to give you the best view possible. What we can tell you is that it's making its way very slowly. Now, what is going to happen? That the president will get out of the limousine. He'll speak to a few local dignitaries. He'll speak to some of the local school kids that have been chosen to speak to the president. He will then make his way up onto the stage, upon where the presidential seal is. We've all seen that on television before in the microphones, and there will be a thunderous jolt when William Jefferson Clinton, the 42nd president of the United States, has announced President Clinton now is coming in to Tom Landry Stadium. Cannot exactly see him, but I am told he is walking into the stadium. The National Press Corps is following his every move. That would be the 4 major networks plus both of the major wire services. They follow his every move. As he goes, they fly with him on every trip. And you will, of course, hear their reports, especially on the CBS Evening News later on tonight. They will all be mentioning, one of the good facts about all this is that everybody will be mentioning the fact that they are in Mission, Texas, they are in Brownsville, Texas, they are in the Rio Grande Valley, and about the particular issues that the president will be in. This is the kind of publicity that you really, the Chamber of Commerce couldn't buy this kind of publicity. This is something a presidential visit has, these intrinsic kinds of after effects that go along with it. Not only do the local people here get to be a part of history, but the rest of the country gets to see what we take for advantage and what we take for granted each and every day.
This is KGBT-TV, the Valley's news leader. News 4 at 5 begins now.
Another reminder of the dangers of kids playing with matches.
As a result, a Valley home catches fire and a 2-year-old is trapped inside.
Muy buenas tardes, I'm Marta Benavides.
And I'm Dave Johnson. Good evening, everyone. It was a disaster waiting to happen. Kids playing with matches, not knowing what would happen as a result.
What did happen would send shivers up any parent's spine. Their home ablaze and a 2-year-old trapped inside.
That's right. Roxanne Garza has more on the story. She joins us live from our McAllen newsroom with more. Roxanne?
Dave, Martha, today's fire is a perfect example of what can happen when kids get their hands on matches.
Pastor at the church says the donor might have heard a plea for missionary funds at a Sunday service. Well, what would you do if fear kept you from answering your telephone or leaving your own home?
How would you feel if that fear was caused by a stranger that had decided to target you for stalking, or worse, what if it was someone that you knew?
That does indeed happen. As Paul Lazon reports, it is a crime that many states are only now starting to do something about.
Dover, New Hampshire.
More local news headed your way at the top of the hour. Irma Choppa's in our newsroom with a preview. Irma?
Hey, Dave, and good afternoon, Val.
It is a cliche that has been around since the beginning of time. One man's junk is another man's treasure.
That seems to be the case in Detroit, Dave, where a controversial artist is getting kicked out of his studio, an al-fresco studio that makes up more than a city block.
That's right. Reporter Drew Levinson says the artist is not as beloved as he thought he was.
Tyree Guyton.
Thanks, Doc Carlos. Everybody wants to hire a winner. Now, when you think of the loud and the bold and the boisterous and the people that just go crazy at Little League baseball games, it's the parents that you usually